Hi, I'm Emily Johnson, founder of Polaris Capital Advisors, and this is Money Matters, the show that inspires your financial confidence. And this summer, we're getting back to basics, each week covering a separate topic on the basics of financial planning and mortgage lending. And as always, the inspiration for our topics comes from you, our viewers, and from our clients. So this week, we're going to begin with covering one of the basic elemental rules of financial planning, and that is the three-bucket rule, as we lovingly like to call it. So please stick with us. We'll be right back with more Money Matters. Welcome back to Money Matters. I'm Emily Johnson, and I like to begin each show with the statement that I strongly believe that everyone can benefit from quality financial advice and that everyone needs a financial advisor. This week, we're going to be covering one of the core aspects of financial planning, really getting back to basics, and that is what we lovingly call the three-bucket rule. So, the three-bucket rule. If you've watched Money Matters in the past, you've seen us discuss the three-bucket rule as it applies to retirement and retirement income. And in those segments, we've discussed the three buckets as being our short-term money, also called our security, our medium-term money, also called income, and our long-term money for growth. So we'll get into that in a little bit in a couple of slides, but today I want to really get back to basics and talk about the three buckets for everyone. So what are our three buckets? If we have discretionary income or we have additional funds that we're seeking to save, call it $100, call it $1,000. It's going to be different for everybody on a monthly basis. Where do we put each of those dollars? And this might seem very basic, but what I find really interesting in practice is that when I have clients come in my office, whether they are pre-retirement, retirement, and looking to change their savings into income or looking to just start saving for the first time, the questions that they have are really not so much around, do we invest in stocks, do we invest in mutual funds? They're around logistics. How do I set up my accounts? Where do the funds go from my left pocket to my right pocket? How does that work? So when we get back to basics here, I want to discuss the logistics of savings and where you might prioritize putting your savings as you're looking to allocate it. So here's our three buckets for everyone. And our first bucket is going to be security. So if you're looking for the first thing that you need when you're looking to save those first few dollars, it's going to be in our security bucket. What do we need in this bucket for it to be full, so to speak? The first thing that we need is anywhere from 3 to, it says 14, but it's also said 24 months of living expenses. So that's going to be your fixed expenses, your mortgage, food, taxes, insurance, all of those things that are going to be your fixed expenses. If you're self-employed, you want to be on the further end of that, having more money in your safety, in your security box. If you are W-2'd and have secure employment, you can err on the lower side of that, more towards 3 months. This needs to be liquid. This is savings accounts, money market accounts, CDs, something like that that is as liquid as possible. And as we all know, the rates on those types of investments right now, if you call it an investment or on savings, are terrible. So what I have found is the best that you can do is check out sites like bankrate.com and see where you can get the best rates. You're probably looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.5 to 1.75% right now for your best rates for completely liquid savings to go in your security bucket. And if it's at all possible, you need to automate this. That means set up a link between your savings account and your checking account, whatever is your operating account, and automate that so that a certain dollar amount is going into that security bucket, not to be touched on a monthly basis or however frequently it works for your schedule. Our next bucket is going to be our retirement bucket. This is going to include 401ks, IRAs, Roth IRAs, simple IRAs. If you are employed, if you're outside employed, not self-employed, you might have a 401k that's available to you or a simple IRA. That's going to be your first area that you're going to look. If you do not have a plan through work, either you're self-employed or your employer doesn't offer a plan through work, then you're going to be looking at IRAs and Roth IRAs. The big benefit here is this is where you're really going to benefit from compound growth. This is going to be long-term investing that will allow you to achieve compound growth. There are also often many tax benefits to these types of retirement plans, and it is usually an option to automate them as well, whether it's right out of your paycheck or, again, you can set up an auto link from your bank draft directly into your retirement account. Typically what we want to aim for here is about 10%. And again, this is rule of thumb. It does not apply across the board. Your circumstance is yours. But in general, we're looking for about 10% of your income to go towards your retirement savings. And our last bucket here, we're going to call it our dream bucket. Now, dream is going to be different for everybody. This might be, and of course your dreams are, all of our dreams are different. But in this case, we're talking about, it might be a home, it might be college for your kids, it might be travel, it might be an RV that's like an Airstream. Whatever your dream is, this is that bucket. And the thing you need to focus on with this bucket is, number one, it's going to be value-based. So is it something that's going to be immediate and more important than, say, some of these other savings, or is it something that is going to be longer term, like a second home that might be something that you want to purchase in, say, 10 years? So the time frame is really important, and also considering what the value is to you relative to your other savings needs. Depending on that time frame, this is either going to be liquid, again, savings, money market, or it's going to be invested. If it's a longer term time horizon, then you might consider investing it so that you can benefit from compound growth and higher growth rates. But also, of course, there's going to be risk associated with that. If it's short term, or if you just can't stand the idea of putting any of these funds at risk, then you might just want to keep it liquid in some sort of a savings or money market. Also great to automate it. That is the key to everything. Automating is the key, just if you can set it and forget it. And I find it's also helpful to set up segmented accounts for these types of goals. If it's education, that's easy. You can set up a 529. If it's for something like saving for a new car, saving for a trip, pretty much every online account allows you to set up multiple accounts without extra charges, so that you can segment one for specifically for the new home, or specifically for the new car. So that's our dream bucket. So how does this work in practice? So here's a typical case study, and we're going to do 2 of these, so hopefully you can see yourself in one of these 2 case studies. First one, married couple, 40 years old, self-employed. One of them is self-employed, one of them works part-time. Between the 2 of them, they earn $100,000 a year. They have 2 kids, ages 8 and 6. They have about $2,000 in the bank right now in their rainy day fund. Otherwise, they're just operating basically paycheck to paycheck. They do have 401ks from their previous employers that are just sitting idle somewhere. They've never moved them. And they right now feel that they could save about $600 a month. That's where they feel like they can pull things together. So what is the recommendation based on our 3-bucket rule for these individuals? How do you divide that $600? Of course, this is getting past the fact that you've said maybe you need to save more. Can you find other expenses that you can trim, et cetera, et cetera. But let's say $600 is what we're looking at for this family with those scenarios. So the first bucket, of course, is going to be security. And in this case, these people need more security. They're on the younger side. They have young children. They don't have a lot of money in the bank. Stuff can happen. So that's really where we're going to focus for these individuals. And the first thing we'll look at in the security bucket is life insurance. Doesn't need to be fancy, just basic term life insurance. But these individuals need that. They have young kids. One is working full-time, one is working part-time. If something were to happen to them, they need that. So that would be part of our security bucket. We estimate that to be, say, $100 a month total for the both of them. Then we would recommend $250 a month go towards this rainy day fund, maybe some online savings account, however they can automate that. So there's $350 right there. So you can see that our focus here is really, for these people, is on the security bucket. The second area is retirement. They presently don't have 401ks that they invest in, and because of their income, they can set up a Roth IRA. So I would recommend that they each set up a Roth IRA and contribute $100 to that each month. So our focus, as you can see, we've already taken $350 here and another $200 there. So we're at $550 right now with our focus in these 2 key areas. And then lastly, the dream. The dream for these individuals at this point is for their kids to go to college. They need to start saving for that, and it might seem like it's a small amount of money, but setting $50 a month away into a 529 savings plan is something, and you'd be amazed at how fast it adds up and how proud you are when you look at that statement and you see that you've actually accumulated funds towards that dream. It's really motivating. So this is not a one-size-fits-all solution. This is an example of how this couple, with their scenario, might divide this $600. There's not one right way to do anything. The idea is you have to do something and get started doing something. So you should definitely consult a financial advisor, consult your accountant, ask for quality financial advice on what works for your situation. So here we have one case study Our next case study, we're going to change it up a little bit. Number 2, we've got a single 62-year-old. She's a teacher. She makes $48,000 a year. She's eligible for a teacher's pension and Social Security. She has $20,000 in IRAs that she's accumulated over the years. She has $50,000 in CDs, and she has $1,000 a month in her savings goal because right now she doesn't spend a whole lot of money, and she doesn't have a mortgage, et cetera, et cetera. So what do we say to this person? How do you divide the $1,000? The difference here is going to be in the focus. We still have our 3 buckets. We're simplifying with our 3 buckets. But this individual, she really has enough security in the form of that $50,000 based on the other factors. Of course, we want to discuss, does she have a mortgage, all of these things, but in this case, we really don't need to focus as much. She's already got that bucket covered. Our next bucket, that's really where she needs to put the bulk of these funds. There's not really enough saved just yet in her retirement accounts based on what she's telling me, so that is where right now we're going to focus and skew this entire $1,000 towards retirement. And then the dream, is the dream part of her future retirement expense? Has she already accumulated funds for travel that she's assuming are going to be part of her retirement expense? Those are questions. But as you can see, our 3 buckets work in every case scenario. It's just a question of where do we focus based on the other factors that are incorporated into that individual's financial picture. Again, not a one-size-fits-all scenario. So, the 3 bucket rule, it applies to everyone. Yes, it's very simple, but before you start focusing on which mutual fund do I choose and which exchange traded fund do I look at, if any, think about how much money do I want to save and which bucket does that money need to go into? Where do I need to focus for my future financial health? So, I appreciate your time today. I hope that this has been helpful, and I look forward to seeing you again next week where we discuss more where your money matters.